Find your place. I would like to introduce to you Keith Doster from Grace Deaf Missions, who has a message to bring to you.
Thank you, brother. It's not much of a message, it's just some information, I think, for you. First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak today. And before I forget about it, there's a sign-up sheet on the table in the, what do you call it, foyer? That place where you walk in the building there. On that table over there on the right, there's a notebook where you can sign up to get our newsletter. We try to send one out every month. And we also sell all of your contact information to the highest bidder. So you can put that on there too. I have to raise funds. That's how I do it. My name is Keith Doster. It rhymes with Foster, not poster or toaster. Thanks. Grace Deaf Missions has been around for a little while, and for this reason. Paul said, I make it my ambition to preach the gospel, not where Christ has already been named, lest I build on someone else's foundation, but as it is written, those who have never been told of him will see, and those who have never heard will understand. In case you don't know, the deaf are the largest unreached people group in the entire world. I would not have guessed that 25 years ago, 30 years ago. I would have thought it's probably the Muslim world that has the most. But one of the reasons why the deaf world is the largest unreached people group is because they are a global people. They don't all live in Mexico, they live all over the world. And the second reason why they are unreached is because every distinct group has its own sign language. Sign language is not universal. So when I go to Mexico, I have an interpreter. I can sign in American Sign Language, but they don't know what I'm saying because they use Mexican Sign Language. So my friend Alberto has to interpret for me. I also don't speak Spanish. And so somebody will say, well, why are you going to Mexico? And that's a really good question. We went to Mexico because the Lord told us to go. Through a series of providential events, we ran across this guy. He should probably change his name to Guy Smiley because he always looks like that. This is Alberto Alcantar, and the Lord brought him to us from Mexico to central Pennsylvania, where we were living at the time. And again, the providence of God is a wondrous thing. And through our witnessing to him, the Lord saved him. He went to bed one night at our house on a Saturday night, and the next morning he came out with this big smile on his face, and Sharon said, what happened to you? And he said, I asked the Lord to forgive me, and my sins, they're gone. And so that was the beginning of Grace Deaf Missions. And so Alberto goes back to Mexico, and he stays in touch with us and begs us to come and share the gospel with the deaf there. According to the latest census, Mexico has 97,000 Catholics, which equates to approximately 78% of the total population. In other words, they're not going to get the gospel through the Catholic Church. And the Catholic influence is just everywhere. It is pervasive. So the deaf, just really, they're kind of a blank slate when we meet them. They don't know anything about the gospel. They don't know anything about the Bible. They don't know anything about church. They don't know about Jesus. They know nothing. And we have also met quite a number of deaf who don't even know sign language. Now, you need to let that sink in for just a second, because if you're deaf and you don't know sign language, well, you don't have any vocabulary. If you don't have any vocabulary, what do you think about? How do you converse? How do you make your feelings known if you don't have any words? Not too long ago, this past year, a young boy was brought to our school. He was 15 years old. His name is Carol, with a K. Carol's 15. He doesn't know sign language. The kid can't read, he can't write, he can't talk, he can't hear, he can't communicate. And he lives in a back room where his grandmother takes care of him. His father abandoned the family because of him, because it's a great shame to have a deaf child in Mexico. It's considered to be a curse from God. You're being punished with this deaf child because you did something really bad. And so people are ashamed to even admit that they have a deaf child. Carol was one of those kids. His father abandoned the family and his mother committed suicide. And he's left with his grandmother, who is in a wheelchair, to take care of him. Somehow, she gets him to the school. He doesn't know any sign language. Within 3 months, I have video of him explaining how he has made new friends, how he loves the school, and he's so happy to be learning Spanish and math, and he's thrilled. And 3 months earlier, we didn't know what he was thinking. He didn't know he had a name. So this work of reaching the deaf, we have two emphases in our ministry: education and evangelism. Education, somebody says, well, evangelism certainly is more important than education. Well, if you don't have a language, then, we can evangelize. I can share the gospel with you, but you have no idea what I'm talking about. If a blind person walked into this church on any Sunday morning, you would know it immediately that they were blind. They could sit down and they could enjoy the message, and afterwards you could go out to lunch with them and discuss it, and they could sing the songs and everything. If a deaf person walked into this church on a Sunday morning, who of you could share the gospel with them? And you wouldn't know there was an issue because they're not obvious. Their problem is not obvious. They look like the rest of us. And so we have, as in evangelicalism, we have largely ignored the deaf because their problem is not obvious. I don't know how many times people have said to me, well, they can read lips, right? 35% of the English language is readable. So in every conversation, you're trying to read lips, you're losing 65% of the conversation. So why bother? We want to teach kids not just sign language, but give them an education so that they can function in a hearing world. And I call that pre-evangelism. We give them the tools to enable them to eventually be able to access the scriptures and understand them and be saved. The other emphasis is evangelism. We have a man who has a team who travels around central Mexico and visits the deaf in their homes. And one of the reasons why we do it that way is because all the deaf are very poor. They're completely poverty-stricken. Many of them don't have jobs, can't get jobs. Why? Well, because they're deaf. And not just because they're deaf, but because nobody can talk to them. So you hire the guy, and then what? There are two main emphases, education and evangelism. There are two main goals. We would like to, Lord willing, eventually plant an indigenous deaf church. And then secondly, provide an education for deaf children to enable them to eventually see and read and understand the biblical. We want to make biblicists out of them. So, I have much more to say about this after lunch. If any of you would like to sit and talk more, I can share much more information and lots of cool stories about how the Lord has blessed this ministry. But here's what we're looking for, and this is my job. My job with Grace F Missions is to take all of your money. So just drop it off on the table as you leave. Grace F Missions needs long-term prayer and financial supporters. Can you imagine how long it's going to take to get a kid who doesn't even know he has a name to become the pastor of a deaf church? That's going to take a while. This is long, slow work. And so we need people who will faithfully support it for the long haul. And we go to churches. I give presentations like this to churches, and most of the time I believe everybody who's sitting there is thinking, well, I hope the deacons are listening to him. Or I hope the pastor's listening to him. But I hope you're listening to me. Most of our support comes from individuals like you. The vast majority of our support comes from individual people who say, hey, I like what you're doing. I'm going to pray for you, and I'm going to send you $20 a month. Praise the Lord. And we will use it well. So we want to provide salaries for our teachers and our evangelists to enable them to do this full-time. They all do this part-time now. My evangelist guy has a secular job. My school administrator has a secular job. We want them to be able to leave those jobs and do just this. So I don't know how this works. There's some kind of voodoo or something that goes on when you point your camera to that, but you can take a picture of that and subscribe to the newsletter, or you can, there's a pen and a piece of paper out there, which is what I would do if I were you, and just put your name and email address out there on the sign-up sheet to get our newsletter. Here's another one. In case you'd like to give online, there's several options that you can choose, either one-time gifts or ongoing gifts, or I don't even know. Just click on that and you'll figure it out. And then there's our website, gracedefmissions.org. If anybody knows how to build really awesome websites for free, talk to me. I'd like to talk to you. So anyway, there's some of the deaf church right there. All of the folks in that picture, I believe, except one, are deaf. And the Lord has used the smallest of things to accomplish some great and wondrous work amongst people who cannot grasp the deaf, the gospel. They cannot learn to hear. And we have put it on them. We have historically made them responsible to figure out how to communicate with us, and they can't. They are beyond the reach of the gospel unless we go to them and show them the gospel with our hands. So pray for us, sign up, and the Lord bless you. Thank you for letting me share this with you.